Have you ever noticed the way a river flows? It doesn't rush or force its way forward, yet it winds around every obstacle and reaches its destination. Or the way a tree grows, steady, purposeful, stretching toward the sky without strain. There is a rhythm to nature, a quiet, elegant way of being that achieves so much without the frantic energy we often associate with success. What if your life could follow that same rhythm? What if by doing less, by letting go of the relentless pressure to push, to strive, and control, you could actually achieve more? I've learned something powerful in life. When you stop fighting the current, you discover the power of the flow. I know this might sound counterintuitive. In a world that celebrates hustle and relentless ambition, the idea of finding success through ease can feel like a fantasy. But I've learned that there's a profound truth in it. Today, I want to share a philosophy with you. It's called Wu Wei, or the art of non-action. But don't mistake this for being passive. This is about living in harmony with the natural flow of life, taking aligned action when it's needed, and learning to let go when it's not. The art of non-action can help you find balance, peace, and even joy in the quiet spaces of life. Wu Wei comes from Taoism, an ancient Chinese philosophy that emphasizes living in harmony with the natural flow of the universe. At its core, it means non-action or effortless action, but it's not about doing nothing. Instead, it's about taking action that feels natural, aligned, and free from unnecessary force. It's like a dancer moving gracefully to the rhythm of the music, or a river carving its path without resistance. When we practice Wu Wei, we're not resisting life or forcing outcomes. Instead, we're learning to listen deeply, observe carefully, and flow with what feels right. This isn't about giving up or being passive. It's about having the courage to trust the process. And let's be honest, trusting the process isn't always easy. In a world that tells us to constantly push, plan, strive, stepping back can feel counterintuitive, like we're losing control. But the truth is, control is often an illusion, and the harder we try to force things, the more resistance we encounter. Imagine this. You're working on a project, pouring in endless hours, but no matter what you do, it feels like you're hitting a wall. Nothing is moving forward. There are obstacles at every turn. The stress builds, your frustration mounts, and still nothing moves forward. Now think about what happens when you step away. Maybe you take a walk, sleep on it, or let your mind wander while doing something unrelated. Often that's when the solution appears, almost as if it's found you. That's the essence of Wu Wei in real life. By pausing, you create space for clarity to emerge and for things to align naturally. I know in my life I have forced or tried to force a lot of things to happen, and it never turns out well. Usually because those weren't the right things for me, actually, or I was clinging too much to something that it was turning into something bad for me instead of something good. Practicing Wu Wei isn't about doing nothing. I'm an action-oriented person, and so I can't do nothing. But I've learned through this philosophy that it's important to learn when to act and when to pause. It's about understanding that life has its own rhythm, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to step to the side and let it unfold. For example, in relationships, forcing someone to see your perspective rarely works. But when you give them space and approach with empathy and patience, understanding often blooms naturally. Wu Wei teaches us to move with the current of life rather than fight against it. And in doing so, we find solutions, connections, and peace in the most unexpected ways. So, flow like water, be adaptable, persistent, and unyielding in quiet strength. I think nature is one of our greatest teachers. It operates on its own schedule, unhurried yet profoundly effective. Think about water. It doesn't fight against the rocks in its path. It flows around them. Over time, it shapes the hardest stone, not through force, but through persistence and alignment with its nature. Or take the seasons. They don't rush to change. Winter doesn't try to hurry into spring, yet everything unfolds as it should. There is a rhythm, a flow that we can learn from. When we try to control every outcome in our lives, forcing things to happen on our own timeline, it's like trying to make a river flow uphill. The result is often frustration, exhaustion, and failure. But when we align with the natural flow of life, we find a sense of ease, and things often fall into place in ways we never imagined. To quote Lao Tzu, nature doesn't hurry, yet everything is accomplished. So why do we resist the flow? Our modern world has conditioned us to believe that success comes from constant effort and relentless ambition. We're told to hustle, to push harder, to do more. And for years, I bought into that idea wholeheartedly. My days were a blur of tasks, meetings, goals. I was checking all those boxes, climbing the ladder, and on paper living a picture-perfect life. But inside I was running on empty. I felt disconnected from myself and my loved ones, and even from the things I used to enjoy. I kept telling myself that if I just worked harder, got that raise, got the title, then happiness would follow. But it didn't. The more I pushed, the more life pushed back. I was swimming upstream, trying to force things into place instead of trusting that they would align naturally. That resistance to life's rhythms, to my own need for rest, to the idea that I didn't have to do it all, was exhausting. I was drained both physically and emotionally. Here's an example of how it used to play out. I used to think that I had to fix every problem immediately, to always have the perfect response or solution. But sometimes people just need you to be present with them, not to fix anything. When I started listening instead of trying to solve, my relationships deepened. I learned that showing up with empathy and letting things unfold naturally was far more powerful than trying to control the outcome. The truth that I've come to understand is that life has its own rhythm, its own natural flow. And when we constantly push against it, we create friction. Friction that leads to stress, burnout, and a sense of disconnection. But when we learn to trust the process, to pause, and to let things align in their own time, we find a different kind of success, one that feels fulfilling, not draining. So, in summary, the harder you push, the farther peace drifts away. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the need to control every detail and trusting that life has its own wisdom. When you let go of the need to force outcomes, you create space for possibilities you couldn't have planned for. It's like planting a seed. You can water it and give it sunlight, but you can't pull it out of the soil and force it to grow. Growth happens in its own time, in its own way. Practicing Wu Wei doesn't mean abandoning your responsibilities or goals. It's about approaching them differently, with less force and more alignment. Here's a few ways you can begin to integrate it into your life. First, pause before acting. Take a moment to reflect before you make a decision. Ask yourself, Is this action necessary? Is it aligned with my values? Next, simplify your life. Let go of commitments, possessions, or habits that create unnecessary stress. Simplifying creates space for clarity and peace. Third, trust the process. Set your intentions, do your part, and then let life unfold. Trust that the right opportunities will come at the right time. Practicing Wu Wei has changed more than just how I approach my day. It's changed how I feel about life. I used to carry so much tension, always worrying, always planning, always trying to control every aspect of my life, my future. My mind was constantly racing, running through endless to-do lists, mapping out every possible scenario, and preparing for things that might never even happen. The need to control came from a place of fear, though I didn't realize it at the time. I was afraid of failure, of disappointment, of uncertainty. I thought that if I could just plan enough, anticipate enough, or work hard enough, I could avoid the chaos of life. But the truth is, life doesn't work that way. No matter how much I tried to control things still went wrong, plans still fell apart, and the unexpected still happened. And when it did, I was left not just dealing with the situation, but also the immense stress and frustration of feeling like I'd failed. I started to notice how much energy I had been wasting trying to force outcomes, trying to fight against the natural flow of life. And I began to wonder, what if I could release that tension? What if I could trust life a little more? Now I feel lighter. There's a peace that comes with surrendering to what is, rather than constantly trying to shape it into what I think it should be. I've learned to let go of the need to overplan, overthink, and overdo. I've learned the power of simply being present. I realize that sometimes the best thing I can do is to listen, to hold space, and to trust that others can find their own way. Letting go doesn't mean I don't care. It means I care deeply, but I'm no longer trying to control things that are beyond my reach. I've embraced the idea that life is unpredictable, and that's okay. It's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay for things to unfold differently than I imagined. It's okay to pause, to breathe, to trust. And when challenges arise, I face them with an open heart and the understanding that I don't have to do it all alone or all at once. The irony is that by letting go, I've gained so much more clarity, more presence, and more joy. Life isn't perfect, it never will be, but it feels lighter, freer, and more authentic. When you live with alignment and trust, you realize that life isn't something to conquer. It's something to experience, to savor, to love. Slow living and the art of Wu Wei are about trusting that life unfolds as it's meant to, and that you already have everything you need to find peace and joy. In the art of not trying, we discover the beauty of simply being. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to explore this journey with me. Subscribe to the channel, join our Discord community, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let's support one another in creating lives that feel meaningful and whole.